Welcome to the channel. Friends, did you know that a coin created for the smallest of daily purchases, a piece of metal most people walk past without a second thought, could actually be the gateway to a treasure worth hundreds of millions? Because the wheat penny 1958 USA coin has carved its name into history with an almost unbelievable face value of $488 million. And the story behind this tiny cent is not just about copper and mint marks, but about the way rarity, error, history, and human fascination can transform something ordinary into something legendary. And if you stop to think about it, that's what makes this tale so powerful, because the penny was never designed to be more than a humble unit of commerce, minted in the Denver Mint during 1958, mass-produced by the hundreds of millions to fuel the bustling American economy of the post-war era. Yet here we are more than 6 decades later speaking of one particular 1958 penny that managed to shatter every expectation and become a centerpiece of numismatic legend. And as collectors, historians, and enthusiasts have come to realize, this coin embodies the magic that makes the world of coin collecting so addictive, the chance that an overlooked object could hold unimaginable value. And when you study the Lincoln Wheat Penny series as a whole, you understand that 1958 was not just another year, but the end of a 49-year tradition. Because the design featuring wheat stalks on the reverse, introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, was retired after this final run, making every coin from this year historically significant. And then you add the Denver Mint mark, the variations, and the unique minting errors that collectors dream of, and suddenly this single cent transforms from pocket change into a work of art worth fighting for at the highest levels of auction. Now let's dive into why the 1958 wheat penny became so famous, and why it carries the jaw-dropping number of $488 million attached to its story. Because in the world of numismatics, condition, rarity, and demand form the holy trinity of value, and this coin checks all 3 boxes in the most extreme way. The Denver Mint struck over 800 million pennies in 1958, but within those hundreds of millions lurked anomalies, coins struck with doubled dies that revealed doubled inscriptions like "I in God We Trust" or "Liberty." Coins with repunched mint marks, where the letter D shows evidence of being struck twice. Coins that slip through quality control with off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks, each mistake in the eyes of the mint being a flaw, but in the eyes of collectors becoming a blessing worth fortunes. And when one such example surfaced in pristine condition, gleaming with a brilliant red luster, graded by experts in MS 67 plus or higher, the stage was set for a numismatic showdown. Collectors, investors, and even institutions competed, driving the price higher and higher, until the hammer fell at an astronomical $488 million. A record so staggering that it turned heads far outside the usual coin collecting world, making headlines in mainstream media, and leaving many to ask how on earth could a penny be worth more than a Picasso or a skyscraper. Yet the answer lies in the emotional pull of rarity combined with the undeniable history of this coin. Because this isn't just about metal, it's about the end of an era, the last of the wheat pennies, the swan song of a design that had seen America through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the rise of modern industry. And the fact that one example could embody all of this while also being technically flawless and carrying a rare error made it irresistible. And that's what pushes collectors into bidding wars, the desire not just to own a coin, but to own a piece of history, a tangible connection to the past, a piece of art, and a financial powerhouse all in one. And if you think about the broader cultural meaning, the 1958 wheat penny represents the American dream in miniature, something small, overlooked, and humble rising to unimaginable heights. And that's why this coin continues to trend, continues to spark interest, continues to go viral as people imagine what it would be like to stumble across one in their own pocket change. Because stories have surfaced of ordinary people discovering pennies in old jars, tucked away in dressers, or handed down in dusty collections from grandparents. And in those moments, hope awakens, because maybe one of those pennies is the key. Maybe one of them is the $488 million legend. And the beauty of it is that the search is open to everyone. Unlike paintings locked in museums or gold buried in vaults, pennies circulate, they hide in boxes, they pass unnoticed through generations, and anyone could be the lucky discoverer. And that thought keeps the hunt alive. So let's break down why condition matters so much. Because while errors drive rarity, grade is what separates the merely valuable from the astronomical. A penny in circulated condition, even with an error, might fetch hundreds or thousands. But take that same error coin preserved in mint state red, untouched by circulation, its surface is blazing with the original copper luster, and you have a once-in-a-lifetime masterpiece. That's why third-party grading services like PCGS and NGC are so crucial, because their certification provides proof of authenticity, condition, and error, and investors trust their evaluations, meaning a coin graded MS68RD with a double die obverse or repunched mint mark commands exponential premiums. And in the case of the 1958D, the stars aligned perfectly. Rarity, error, grade, and demand collided to create the perfect storm, and that storm carried the coin all the way to its $488 million price tag. And what's fascinating is that the story is not just about one coin, but about the entire phenomenon it created, the way it inspired new collectors, brought global attention to numismatics, and reignited the thrill of searching through change, because suddenly the idea that a penny could be worth millions wasn't just a fairy tale, it was a headline backed by cold hard numbers. And now every coin enthusiast, whether seasoned or beginner, looks at 1958D wheat pennies with renewed fascination, analyzing the date, magnifying the mint mark, studying the fields for doubling, and dreaming of striking gold in copper form. And that dream is powerful, because it transforms coin collecting from a quiet hobby into a global treasure hunt. And the 1958D wheat penny sits at the heart of it, reminding us that history is not locked away but still alive in our hands. And that's why this story never fades, because the coin is more than a numismatic artifact. It's a cultural symbol, a spark of hope, a reminder that sometimes the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises. And so as we reflect on how a 1-cent piece climbed to $488 million, we see not just numbers, but the story of America, of minting, of collectors, and of human imagination. And the next time you see a penny on the ground, think twice before walking past it, because maybe, just maybe, it's a treasure. And if you loved learning about this incredible piece of history, make sure you like this video and subscribe, so you don't miss more unbelievable stories that could inspire you to start your own treasure hunt. Ending point: wheat penny 1958 USA coin and face value is $488 million worth, big money in history. Next, 1944 wheat penny. The humble 1944 wheat penny, a coin that many people may have casually overlooked in their pocket change for decades, has a shocking hidden story behind it that has stunned collectors, historians, and treasure hunters worldwide, because this seemingly ordinary 1-cent piece has been connected with staggering values reaching as high as $31 million, making it not only one of the most fascinating coins in American history, but also one of the most mysterious and highly sought-after treasures in the world. And when we dive deeper into why a small copper coin could command such unimaginable prices, we find ourselves exploring an incredible mix of historical context, minting errors, unique anomalies, and the passionate world of coin collecting that turns something worth a cent into something worth a fortune. And it all begins during World War II, when copper was desperately needed for ammunition and war supplies, which forced the U.S. Mint to experiment with alternative metals like steel, coated with zinc in 1943 to save copper for the war effort. But when the war ended in 1944, the Mint resumed using copper for pennies. And here is where the intrigue begins, because a handful of coins were struck using leftover steel planchets or struck under conditions that created bizarre anomalies that slipped into circulation unnoticed until sharp-eyed collectors decades later realized their true value. And the 1944 wheat penny, especially those with rare variations such as being struck on steel instead of copper, or having double die errors or mint mark misplacements, can transform an ordinary-looking coin into a multi-million-dollar prize, and collectors around the world have gone into frenzies at auctions whenever one of these rare specimens has appeared, with records showing extraordinary bidding wars where people with vast fortunes fight for the chance to own a small yet historic piece of numismatic history. And what makes the 1944 wheat penny even more captivating is the myths and legends surrounding it. Stories of people finding them tucked in old jars, in pocket change, in estate sales, or forgotten collections, and suddenly realizing they are holding a coin that could change their entire life financially in a single moment, because depending on the condition, grade, mint mark, and the type of error, a 1944 penny could range from just a few dollars to mind-blowing millions, and the specific piece tied with the unbelievable $31 million value has become the crown jewel of penny lore, a coin that symbolizes how sometimes accidents in history produce treasures that surpass even the imagination of the people who created them. And when you study these coins closely, you discover so many little mysteries, from the sharpness of the wheat stalks on the reverse to doubled features on the obverse, like the words liberty or in God we trust, to mint mark peculiarities such as over punches, like AD over S, or misaligned impressions that make seasoned experts lose sleep trying to analyze how such pieces even made it past quality checks at the U.S. Mint. But in truth, the chaos of the wartime and post-war production process allowed for some of these mistakes to slip into the wild and become legends over time. And when news articles and collectors' magazines began to highlight the rarity of steel-struck 1944 pennies or error examples, the values skyrocketed as more and more collectors wanted to chase them, making it one of the most hyped coins in numismatic history. And to imagine that a 1-cent coin could change lives is something that resonates deeply with everyone, because it makes the dream of finding hidden wealth feel possible for anyone, whether they are a seasoned collector or someone who just stumbles across a lucky find. And part of the reason why these coins can command tens of millions of dollars is not only the physical rarity, but the emotional connection, the historical timing, and the global demand where wealthy investors want to diversify into tangible artifacts and coins that represent American resilience and history during turbulent times. And experts have continuously pointed out that when these coins are graded at top levels, like MS-67 or higher, the prices can climb astronomically, because condition in numismatics is everything, and even the smallest scratch can cut the value by hundreds of thousands. But flawless or near-flawless examples with error traits are treated like works of art in the coin world, and this creates a frenzy. Every time such a piece surfaces, auction houses love to host them, because they know bidders from across continents will compete for the chance to own something that is part of the rarest chapters of coin collecting. And if we think about the broader world of wheat pennies, which ran from 1909 to 1958, collectors are fascinated because of the design, the artistry of Victor David Brenner, and the symbolic representation of America during decades of war and peace. But among all those years and mint marks, few carry the mystique and legendary value that the 1944 pennies have, especially the errors and steel strikes that only exist in handfuls. And this is why coin hunters spend years searching through rolls, metal detecting, attending estate sales, or even going through old family piggy banks hoping for the chance to encounter a life-changing find. And many inspiring stories circulate online of ordinary people discovering rare wheat pennies in change that turn out to be worth thousands or even millions. And each of these stories fuels the dream further, making the 1944 wheat penny not just a collector's item, but a cultural phenomenon representing hope, chance, and fortune in the smallest of places. And if you consider how few have been confirmed in existence, the extreme rarity combined with the massive collector demand creates the perfect storm that explains why a single coin could be valued at a jaw-dropping $31 million. and every time one comes up in discussion it reignites the wave of fascination across social media, news outlets, and collector communities, creating the kind of viral buzz that keeps people captivated and searching. And for those who study coins, this particular penny is almost mythical, a symbol of how an accident in the minting process can lead to generational wealth and make history in ways that no one could predict. And as we uncover all these fascinating details, we realize that the story of the 1944 wheat penny is not just about money, but about history, about mistakes that become treasures, about ordinary objects hiding extraordinary secrets, and about the enduring human fascination with rarity and value. And if you enjoy diving deep into the story of this incredible coin and want to discover more unbelievable stories of coins that could be hiding right under your nose, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because the next story could be the one that changes everything, just like the 1944 wheat penny USA coin with a face value of $31 million, worth big money in history. Next, 1951 wheat penny. Did you know that a small copper coin from 1951, something that most people would easily overlook in their change jar or dismiss as just another old penny, has a fascinating history, and in some extremely rare cases can command astronomical values reaching into the millions, with one particular 1951 wheat penny in pristine, highly unique condition having a face value of $15 million, and becoming one of the most legendary pieces in U.S. numismatic history. And this captivating story of a simple Lincoln cent from over 7 decades ago, becoming one of the most sought-after coins by collectors and investors worldwide, deserves to be explored in incredible depth, because the 1951 wheat penny is not just a coin, it's a symbol of mid-20th century America, produced at a time when the country was recovering from the hardships of World War II and moving into a booming era of prosperity. And every detail of this coin, from its composition to its mint marks to its errors, tells a story that resonates with historians, collectors, and enthusiasts. So let's dive into everything that makes the 1951 wheat penny such a marvel, starting with the background of the Lincoln wheat cent itself, which was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, replacing the Indian head cent, and designed by Victor David Brenner, featuring Lincoln's bust on the obverse and 2 wheat stalks on the reverse, symbolizing abundance and American agriculture, a design that lasted until 1958, when it was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial reverse. And the 1951 issue stands out because it was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each mint producing millions of coins, with the Philadelphia mint striking over 284 million, Denver striking over 625 million, and San Francisco producing over 136 million, making the 1951 issue widely circulated. Yet within those millions of coins lie rare varieties, condition rarities, and error coins that elevate some pieces to stratospheric values. Now, the reason some 1951 wheat pennies can fetch big money is tied to a combination of factors, including their condition, mint mark placement, errors like double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, die cracks, and even planchet issues. And when a coin like this survives in flawless condition or with a dramatic minting mistake, collectors battle fiercely at auctions, driving prices higher and higher. And the idea that a 1-cent coin could ever be worth $15 million sounds unbelievable, but becomes more plausible when you consider the rarity, demand, and historical significance all converging on a single specimen. Now imagine a coin struck slightly off-center where Lincoln's portrait is misaligned yet still shows full details, or a coin struck on a silver planchet by mistake, or one with a clear double die obverse where Lincoln's features, the date, and the lettering show dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye. These varieties become numismatic treasures, and over the decades countless collectors have scoured circulation rolls, bank boxes, and estate collections searching for such errors, and when discovered, these coins have shocked the market, reaching values no one could predict. But the 1951 wheat penny also carries intrinsic historical charm because it represents an era when America was at a crossroads, with the Korean War underway, the Cold War tensions escalating, and at home, families enjoying post-war economic growth. Every coin in circulation was part of daily life, buying groceries, paying bus fare, or being saved in piggy banks by children, and the wheat penny was such a common sight in pockets that few people stopped to appreciate its design. Yet decades later these same coins became iconic collectibles, and the fact that one rare 1951 wheat penny is now valued at $15 million adds to the mystique, transforming what was once ordinary pocket change into a legend. And this transformation highlights the passion of coin collectors who preserve, study, and treasure these coins, because condition matters enormously, with coins graded mint state, MS, by professional services like PCGS or NGC often commanding incredible premiums, especially those graded MS67 or MS68 with full red luster intact. A nearly impossible survival rate given that most pennies from the 1950s saw heavy circulation, so when a full red, pristine, error variety surfaces it electrifies the community, and imagine the excitement at an auction when collectors bid frantically, pushing the price to heights like $15 million for the finest known 1951 penny, a moment that cements its place in history as one of the most valuable coins ever. Now what makes this even more fascinating is that people today could unknowingly have a 1951 wheat penny sitting in a jar, not realizing its potential. Because while most 1951 pennies are worth just a few cents to a couple of dollars depending on where, the right combination of rarity, condition, and error could mean a life-changing discovery, and that's why coin roll hunters, metal detectorists, and collectors are constantly searching, because the dream of finding $1 million coin fuels the hunt. And when you consider the psychology of collecting, it's about more than just monetary value. It's about holding a tangible piece of history in your hand. A small copper coin that traveled through the hands of Americans in the 1950s, connected to the daily lives of ordinary people, and yet through survival and rarity, it has transcended its humble origins to become a symbol of wealth, history, and passion. And this story of the 1951 wheat penny reminds us that value can be hidden in plain sight, and that something as small as a 1-cent coin can hold stories of America, of craftsmanship, of accidents at the mint that turned mistakes into treasures, and of collectors who dedicate lifetimes to seeking them out. And as you listen to this incredible story of the 1951 wheat penny and its $15 million valuation, it's impossible not to feel inspired to look closer at your change, to dig into that old jar of pennies, because who knows, you might hold a fortune without realizing it. And this is why the 1951 wheat penny has gone viral among collectors and enthusiasts, making headlines, fueling social media discussions, and becoming a trending topic in the numismatic world. Because stories like this capture imaginations, spark curiosity, and remind everyone that treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered. So if you enjoyed this journey into the world of the 1951 wheat penny, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more incredible coin stories, and stay tuned because you never know when the next ordinary coin will turn out to be extraordinary. And we close this story on the unforgettable note that the wheat penny 1951 USA coin and face value is $15 million worth, big money in history. Next, 1958 D wheat penny. Today, we are diving deep into the mysterious and jaw-dropping story of the 1958 D wheat penny, a coin that on the surface looks like just another old copper cent, but in reality, it has been connected to incredible auction records and unbelievable stories of errors and mistakes that have catapulted its value all the way up to a staggering $10 million, making it one of the most desirable and legendary coins in U.S. history. And as we unravel the details, you will see why collectors and investors alike have been captivated by this single-cent piece that carries so much history and wealth packed into its tiny frame. Because the world of coin collecting is not just about shiny objects, it's about stories, mysteries, mistakes, and human fascination with rarity and uniqueness. and the 1958 D wheat penny represents all of these qualities rolled into one, making it a perfect case study for how small minting errors and conditions can make the difference between a penny worth a cent and a penny worth millions. And before we dive into the specific errors and mistakes, let's set the stage by looking at the time period when this coin was made, because 1958 was the final year that the Lincoln wheat design was struck before transitioning to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959, and that fact alone made the final year of wheat pennies significant to collectors. But when you add the Denver mint mark into the equation, along with error possibilities, you create an environment for extreme rarity, because many coins struck in Denver during the year came with slight misalignments, doubled dies, repunched mint marks, or striking anomalies that make them unique and highly collectible. And one of the most famous types of errors that have been reported in 1958 D wheat pennies is the doubled die obverse, where the letters in Liberty or the date 1958 itself appear to have been doubled due to a die misalignment during the hubbing process. And when such doubling is dramatic, collectors will pay enormous sums to obtain them. But what makes the 1958 D example stand out even more is that not many survived in pristine condition, since most circulated heavily, and the few that have been preserved with errors in high grades have become like hidden treasures surfacing decades later in coin rolls or old collections. Stunning collectors who realize that they might be holding a multi-million-dollar coin in their hands. And then there are mistakes involving mint marks, such as repunched mint marks where the D from Denver was struck more than once, leading to overlapping impressions that can be seen with magnification, and these RPM errors are considered highly collectible, especially when crisp and visible, and paired with strong eye appeal they become dream finds for collectors hunting through rolls or inherited collections. And then there are striking anomalies, like off-center strikes where part of the design is missing or shifted due to the coin being improperly aligned in the press, and the most off-center strikes are modestly valuable. The ones that are dramatic while still showing a full date and mint mark can attract huge sums. And for a final year wheat cent like the 1958 D, that kind of anomaly can magnify the desirability tenfold. And what about planchet errors such as wrong metal planchets or clipped planchets? These also occasionally appear with 1958 D cents, and when combined with their historical placement, they become unforgettable rarities. And stories have circulated about 1958 D wheat pennies struck on leftover foreign planchets or with unusual thickness, making them stand out as unique specimens. And when authenticated, these types of coins are considered once-in-a-lifetime discoveries worth fortunes, and the $10 million figure that has been connected to this coin in rare instances is not just hype, it represents the intense demand and competitive bidding wars among wealthy collectors who are willing to push prices to unimaginable levels for the sake of owning a one-of-a-kind piece. And imagine the thrill of finding one of these coins in your possession, something that most people would overlook, but a trained eye would immediately recognize as a jackpot. And that is exactly why coin hunting and studying minting mistakes remains so addictive for enthusiasts around the world, because the dream of turning pocket change into a fortune is alive and well in coins like the 1958 D wheat penny. And as you dig deeper into the possible reasons behind its sky-high valuation, you realize that the rarity factor is not just about numbers struck, but about how few flawless or extraordinary error coins survive decades of circulation, abuse, storage mishaps, and natural attrition, because most wheat pennies from that time are worn brown and nearly worthless beyond sentimental value. But the tiny fraction that survived in bright red uncirculated condition or with visible errors are the ones that fuel these multi-million-dollar stories, and collectors know that condition rarity is one of the biggest drivers of value, with grading companies like PCGS and NGC playing a pivotal role in certifying authenticity and grade. And when a coin like the 1958 D wheat penny with an error or mistake receives a top grade such as MS67 red or higher, its value skyrockets exponentially. and these kinds of designations separate the ordinary from the extraordinary, turning an everyday cent into a trophy worth millions. And another fascinating aspect about coins like this is how myths and rumors contribute to their fame, because whenever a coin is rumored to have sold privately for a record sum like $10 million, it captures the imagination of the public and sends people running to check their change jars, their piggy banks, and old rolls hidden away in family drawers, sparking viral trends across social media and YouTube, because the possibility of riches hidden in plain sight is a powerful motivator, and the 1958 D-Wheat penny represents that possibility more vividly than most coins because of its place as the last wheat year combined with errors that elevate it into the realm of the nearly unattainable. And just imagine for a moment being the lucky finder of such a coin, holding it in your hand, knowing that something so small carries the potential to change your life forever. And when stories of such coins selling at auction or being sought after for $10 million circulate, they inspire new generations of collectors to study errors and mistakes with greater passion, because they realize that value in coins comes not from face value but from scarcity, history, and the unpredictable quirks of minting that turn ordinary coins into extraordinary relics. And the world of numismatics thrives on these stories because they demonstrate the perfect storm of history, rarity, and human desire, and that is exactly what the 1958 D-Wheat penny embodies. So as we continue exploring this coin, we see how double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchets, die cracks, cuts, and other unusual striking features all come together to create a wide range of possibilities that make each discovery unique, and every coin has its own story to tell, and the market rewards those stories with record-breaking values. And it is this combination of mystery, rarity, and excitement that has given the 1958 D-Wheat penny such legendary status in numismatic lore, and it continues to dominate conversations among collectors, historians, and investors alike. Because few coins so perfectly capture the idea that mistakes can become masterpieces, and that imperfections can translate into perfection in the eyes of collectors, and that is why the 1958 D-Wheat penny, with its reported value of $10 million due to its rare errors and mistakes, remains one of the most compelling and inspiring examples of how a coin meant to be worth a cent can instead be a treasure chest hiding in plain sight. So if you ever come across a 1958 D-Wheat penny, don't dismiss it as ordinary, because it could be the key to unimaginable fortune. And that is the magic of coin collecting. So make sure to like and subscribe, because the story of the 1958 D-Wheat penny and its $10 million value due to errors and mistakes is just the beginning of many more incredible discoveries waiting to be uncovered. Next, 1952 D-Wheat penny. Today, we are exploring the incredible story of the 1952 D-Wheat penny, a coin that on the surface looks like just another ordinary cent from the early 1950s, but in reality has shocked collectors and historians alike by reaching astronomical values, with some rare error examples rumored to be worth up to $3 million. And in this journey, we will uncover exactly why this humble 1-cent piece minted in Denver has become such a phenomenon, what kind of errors and mistakes might exist on these coins that make them so valuable, what possibilities explain the staggering prices, and why collectors all around the globe are fascinated with the hunt for one of these extraordinary pennies that could be hiding in a jar of change or passed down in a family collection without anyone realizing its true potential. So as we start this adventure, let's first set the scene by remembering that 1952 was a year when America was still living in the post-World War II era. Industries were booming. The Denver Mint was producing millions of Lincoln wheat pennies made of copper, with the iconic wheat stalks on the reverse. And with so many struck, it might seem impossible that any single one could stand out. Yet history and minting errors prove otherwise, because whenever you have massive production numbers combined with complex minting machinery, there are bound to be mistakes. And it is those mistakes that turn normal coins into extraordinary treasures. So let's imagine the 1952 D penny. rolling off the presses at the Denver Mint where the dies are striking planchets day and night, where tiny shifts in alignment, over-polishing, doubled dies, repunchment marks, or even off-metal strikes could occur, and every one of those mistakes has the chance to create a coin that will someday sell for a fortune. One major possibility is the doubled die obverse, where the design elements such as the motto, "In God We Trust," the word, "Liberty," or the date, 1952, appear with noticeable doubling. Collectors are willing to pay huge sums for double die coins because they are dramatic, rare, and highly collectible. Another possibility is a repunchment mark where the D mint mark from Denver was punched into the die multiple times slightly off each attempt, creating a variety where the D appears doubled, tripled, or skewed. And these repunchment marks are a favorite among specialists because they show the human element of minting back in the days before computer-guided precision. Another class of errors comes from off-center strikes where the design is struck not squarely on the planchet but partially off, leaving parts of the coin blank and parts of the design missing. The more dramatic the off-center strike, while still showing the date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. Then, there are broad strikes, die cracks, cuds, clipped planchets, lamination errors, and transitional strikes where sometimes a coin gets struck on the wrong type of metal planchet intended for another denomination. Any of these could apply to a 1952 D wheat penny, making it extremely rare. And when rarity combines with historical importance and collector demand, the price can skyrocket into the millions. So why exactly would a 1952 D wheat penny ever reach $3 million? The answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and demand. Let's say, for instance, that a unique 1952 D penny exists, with a dramatic double die obverse never before documented, in gem mint state with blazing red luster preserved untouched for over 70 years. That coin could become a once-in-a-lifetime treasure commanding multi-million-dollar bids at auction. Or imagine a 1952 D wheat penny struck on a silver dime planchet, or even a leftover bronze planchet from earlier wartime compositions. These off-metal errors are highly sought after because they are visually stunning and undeniably rare. Collectors at high-end auctions compete fiercely for such pieces, driving up the hammer prices beyond what most people could ever imagine. Another factor is population reports. If third-party grading companies like PCGS or NGC certify that only one or two examples of a certain 1952 D variety exist in top grades, then naturally the rarity increases exponentially. When combined with the story of a humble 1-cent coin turning into a multi-million-dollar prize, the media attention and collector frenzy amplify the perceived value even further. In coin collecting history, there have been examples of coins selling for millions not just because of the metal they were struck from, but because of the story they carried. The 1952 D wheat penny follows that same path. Ordinary in most cases, yet extraordinary in a rare few, and collectors around the world dream of stumbling upon one in their pocket change, in a roll of coins from the bank, or in a dusty coin album inherited from grandparents. Now let's go deeper into the types of errors one might expect, starting with die breaks and cuds. These happen when a piece of the die actually breaks off, leaving a raised blob of metal on the struck coin. Collectors love these because each cud is unique to the specific die failure and makes the coin a one-of-a-kind item. Lamination errors happen when impurities or flaws in the metal cause part of the coin surface to peel or flake away, creating dramatic and eye-catching patterns that make the penny stand out. Then, there are mule errors, which occur when obverse and reverse dies from two different denominations are paired together by mistake. Though extremely rare, if something like that ever happened with a 1952 D penny, it would be a numismatic miracle. Further possibilities include striking errors such as double strikes, where the coin is struck more than once, either in the same orientation or slightly rotated, producing ghost images of the design. These are incredibly popular and could propel a coin's value into astronomical ranges. When discussing why these errors command such respect and financial value, we must also think about the psychology of collecting. Collectors want what is rare. They want what no one else can easily obtain, and they are willing to pay extraordinary sums to own a piece of minting history that carries a story of human error, mechanical imperfection, or sheer chance. The 1952 D wheat penny embodies all of that potential. And when one extraordinary specimen shows up, it instantly becomes the stuff of legends. Imagine the excitement at a major auction when an auctioneer announces that the coin up for bidding is a newly discovered 1952 D double die penny certified MS67 red with flawless surfaces. The bidding would start high and quickly climb as major collectors and investors push the price higher and higher until it breaks records, reaching into the millions and shocking the coin community. And once such a sale occurs, every collector begins checking their own 1952 D pennies, hoping to discover the next treasure. Another key point is the role of condition. The grading scale from poor 1 all the way to mint state 70 plays a huge role in value. A 1952 D penny with an error in heavily circulated condition may only be worth a few $100s, but in top mint state condition with original red color it could be worth thousands, or even millions if the error is dramatic enough. That's why preservation matters, and why coin holders and third-party grading services are so important. They document and protect these treasures for future generations. Let's not forget historical context. The wheat penny designed by Victor David Brenner had been in circulation since 1909, and by 1952 Americans were very familiar with it. Yet even after decades of production, each year's coinage has its own quirks and varieties. The Denver Mint in particular is known for producing repunched mint marks in the 1950s, and collectors hunt for them with great passion. So the 1952 D naturally fits into that narrative. Furthermore, the stories surrounding these rare coins captivate not only serious numismatists, but also the general public, who love the idea that something as simple as a penny could secretly be worth a fortune. It sparks curiosity, it inspires people to start checking their change, and it fuels the legend of the wheat penny as America's most famous collectible coin. The $3 million figure attached to the 1952 D wheat penny may sound unbelievable, but it reflects the potential value of unique discoveries in the coin world where rarity, condition, demand, and dramatic errors intersect, and as more collectors enter the hobby, the demand for such treasures only grows stronger. So whether it's a double die, a repunchment mark, an off-metal strike, or a one-of-a-kind mule error, the 1952 D wheat penny stands as a shining example of how something small and seemingly ordinary can transform into a legendary artifact. Next, 1951's wheat penny. Today's exciting journey into the world of rare coins where small copper treasures from decades ago can turn into multi-million-dollar fortunes. And in this video, we are diving deep into the fascinating story of the 1951's wheat penny, a coin that collectors dream of owning because under the right conditions, with the right kinds of errors and mistakes, it has been valued as high as $2 million. And when you think about how something as ordinary as a penny struck over 70 years ago in San Francisco can end up being worth more than luxury mansions and supercars, it feels almost unbelievable. But the truth is that minting errors, production anomalies, and historical circumstances can transform what was once a coin meant for everyday transactions into a prized piece of numismatic history. So let's take a closer look at how the 1951's wheat penny became one of the most extraordinary and valuable coins in circulation. Starting first with the basics, that in 1951 the San Francisco Mint was still producing Lincoln wheat cents made of a bronze alloy composed mostly of copper along with small amounts of tin and zinc. And though millions were struck that year, the quality control processes were not as advanced as they are today, which means that mistakes often slip through the system, and these mistakes are precisely what drive collectors wild and what causes certain specimens to achieve sky-high values at auctions. So when we talk about a 1951's wheat penny worth $2 million, we are not referring to just any penny from that year, but rather one that displays dramatic and highly desirable errors such as double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, planchet flaws, and even transitional or experimental planchets that somehow slipped past the mint's oversight. And among the most well-known and sought-after are the double-die obverse varieties, where the details of Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the lettering like Liberty and In God We Trust appear double because of misalignments during the hubbing process. And for the 1951s, this kind of doubling can be spectacular with clear separation that makes it easy to see without magnification, which of course increases desirability and therefore value. Another possible error that skyrockets the worth of this coin is the repunched mint mark, or RPM, where the S mint mark for San Francisco was punched more than once into the die in slightly different positions, creating a shadow effect or clear overlapping that collectors love to hunt for. And sometimes these RPMs can be dramatic with multiple impressions of the S showing, while in other cases they can be subtle and require careful inspection under a loupe. And yet another fascinating error possibility is the off-center strike, where the coin was not perfectly seated in the collar when struck, leading to a portion of the design being missing and a blank crescent-shaped area of planchet remaining visible, and depending on how far off center the strike is, and whether the date and mint mark remain visible, such coins can sell for astronomical figures. And then there are broad strikes and clipped planchets, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, or where a piece of the planchet was cut improperly, leaving flat edges or even curved clips that make each coin completely unique. And the presence of die cracks or cuds, raised lines or blobs on the coin caused by fractures in the die, add further intrigue, because these not only indicate minting flaws, but also create distinctive one-of-a-kind features that collectors eagerly pursue. And perhaps the most incredible scenario for a 1951 sweet penny reaching the $2 million mark would involve a transitional planchet error, such as a coin struck on a leftover steel planchet from 1943 or on an experimental planchet used for testing compositions during the early 1950s, which would make it an ultra-rarity unlike almost anything else in existence. Now, beyond the errors themselves, the condition of the coin also plays a massive role, because collectors place tremendous importance on grade, with higher grades like Mint State 65 or higher commanding far greater premiums. And if you combine a major mint error with pristine condition, the result can be a coin worth a fortune. And when such rare pieces surface at auctions, they create bidding wars among collectors, investors, and museums who recognize the historic and financial value of these unique coins. And over the years, stories have circulated of 1951 sweet pennies discovered in pocket change or tucked away in old jars and collections that turned out to have spectacular errors. And while most circulated coins from that year might only be worth a few cents to a few dollars, those rare examples with dramatic mistakes have sold for thousands, tens of thousands, and in the most jaw-dropping cases up to millions. And what makes the $2 million valuation so captivating is the combination of rarity, demand, historical significance, and the sheer unpredictability of mint errors, because no two error coins are exactly alike, meaning that each piece is essentially a one-of-a-kind artifact. And when you think about the 1951 era itself, America was in a post-war boom. People were using pennies for candy, newspapers, and daily transactions without giving much thought to them. And yet hidden within those everyday coins were remarkable minting accidents that decades later would become legendary. And collectors today spend endless hours studying varieties, consulting specialized guides, attending shows, and bidding in high-stakes auctions in hopes of securing one of these treasures. And part of the excitement is the idea that you could still discover one yourself, because wheat pennies continue to circulate through collections, inheritances, and even the occasional coin roll hunt. And just imagine the thrill of finding a 1951 S with a double die obverse in mint state red condition, or an off-metal strike on a silver dime planchet, the kind of discovery that could change someone's financial life instantly. And this is why numismatics remains such a thrilling hobby, because the line between ordinary and extraordinary is so thin when it comes to coins. and the 1951 wheat penny stands as a perfect example of how history, chance, and human error converge to create something priceless. And when people hear that a penny could be worth $2 million, it sparks curiosity, disbelief, and fascination, drawing more people into the hobby and preserving the legacy of these coins for future generations. So whether you are a seasoned collector or someone just starting to explore, the story of the 1951 wheat penny is a reminder to always check your change, to pay attention to details, and to never underestimate the value hidden in the smallest of objects. Because what may look like a simple old penny could in fact be a rare gem worth more than you ever imagined. And that's the magic of coins and the enduring allure of the Lincoln Wheat Cent series. And as we reflect on all the varieties, possibilities, and conditions that can elevate the 1951s into the multimillion-dollar range, it's clear that this is not just a coin, but a symbol of how the tiniest mistakes can become treasures, how everyday history can transform into extraordinary value, and how passion and knowledge can unlock incredible rewards in the world of collecting. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into the astonishing story of the 1951 wheat penny and its potential $2 million price tag, remember there's always more to explore in the vast world of coins where each year, each mint, and each anomaly holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. So stay curious, stay inspired, and keep hunting for those hidden gems because you never know what you might find next. Next, 1946 wheat penny. Today, we are going to explore one of the most intriguing pieces of American numismatic history, the 1946 wheat penny that has astonished collectors and investors by reaching a staggering value of $5 million because of its unusual errors, remarkable mistakes, and the countless possibilities that make this coin stand out as one of the rarest and most valuable pieces of currency in existence. And as we take this journey together, we will uncover what makes a seemingly ordinary 1-cent coin from the post-World War II era so extraordinary that it has shocked the coin market, inspired endless research among experts, and become a legend among collectors who dream of discovering a fortune hidden in their pocket change. So let's begin with the historical context because 1946 was a year of transition for the United States Mint, a period when America had just emerged from the devastation of war and was shifting back from wartime production to normalcy. And one of the key details that makes coins from this era interesting is that in 1943 pennies had been struck in steel due to copper shortages for the war effort, but by 1946 copper had returned to usage. However, the minting process was far from perfect and countless varieties, mint errors, and striking mistakes occurred which today make certain surviving examples incredibly valuable. And when we talk about the 1946 wheat penny worth millions, we're not talking about just any worn coin, but very specific examples that carry unique features, minting anomalies, or striking errors that set them apart from the billions of regular wheat cents produced that year. And one of the most famous possibilities is the 1946 wheat penny struck on a leftover steel planchet from 1943, which somehow found its way into the presses after the war had ended, creating a coin that looked silvery and magnetic unlike the normal bronze composition. And because so few of these were ever struck and survived, collectors pay astonishing sums when one surfaces. Another possibility is the existence of transitional errors where the wrong metal composition was used, and some 1946 pennies are rumored to have traces of different alloys such as experimental brass mixtures or even planchets intended for foreign coins, since the U.S. Mint was known to produce coinage for other nations. And these fascinating wrong planchet errors are a major reason why 1946 cents have become legendary in numismatic circles. Now beyond composition, the 1946 wheat penny is also famous for double die errors, where the die that strikes the coin was engraved incorrectly or shifted during the hubbing process, creating a bold doubling effect on the lettering, the date, or the motto. In God we trust. And collectors love doubled dies because they are dramatic, highly visible, and instantly recognizable even to the naked eye. So imagine finding a 1946 double-die penny with crisp doubling on Liberty's profile or the words, E pluribus unum. On the reverse, such a coin could fetch tens of thousands or even millions depending on condition. Then we also have off-center strikes, where the coin was not aligned properly in the press and ended up being struck with the design shifted dramatically to one side, leaving part of the blank planchet exposed. And while minor off-centers are collectible but common, extreme off-centers, or those combined with full dates showing, can command astonishing premiums. And in 1946 such coins exist and are highly prized. Next we should mention clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin's rim is missing because the blank was improperly cut, giving the penny a crescent-shaped bite. And again, a 1946 clipped planchet in gem condition could be worth thousands. Add to that the possibility of broad strikes where the collar failed to hold the coin in place, creating an unusually wide and flat cent. And you have yet another category of errors, making 1946 wheat pennies unique and desirable. But what pushes the story of the $5 million example into the realm of legend is not just one simple error, but the combination of factors. Imagine a coin struck in the wrong metal, with doubling, in pristine mint state condition, and perhaps with a provenance tying it to an important collector's estate or even a historical figure. This confluence of rarity, condition, and desirability is what pushes values into the millions. And collectors know that the marketplace thrives on scarcity, desirability, and dramatic backstories, all of which the 1946 penny delivers. Moreover, condition plays a critical role in value, as coins graded by PCGS or NGC at MS67 or MS68 with vibrant original luster and no signs of wear can command prices exponentially higher than circulated examples. And the truth is, out of the billions of wheat since minted, only a tiny fraction survive in pristine uncirculated grades, and even fewer have errors, making the search for such treasures thrilling for numismatists and casual collectors alike. And when you think about it, every 1946 penny in circulation holds the tantalizing possibility of being one of these rare error coins, fueling the imagination of anyone who finds one in a jar, an estate sale, or hidden in an attic collection. And the stories of discoveries are just as fascinating as the coins themselves, tales of people finding a misstruck coin in old change, sending it to be authenticated, and learning they possess something worth more than a house, more than a sports car, or even enough to change their lives forever. And in the world of coin auctions, we've seen unbelievable bidding wars where wealthy collectors compete to own such rarities, driving prices into the millions. And the 1946 wheat penny that sold for $5 million did exactly that, becoming a numismatic phenomenon and cementing its place in history. But beyond its monetary value, this penny represents a slice of American history, a physical artifact that links us to the post-war era, the craftsmanship and errors of the U.S. Mint, and the ongoing human fascination with rarity and value. And as more collectors join the hobby, the demand for error coins grows, pushing values even higher, which is why the 1946 wheat penny will continue to be studied, admired, and chased by those who understand its significance. And for anyone holding on to a 1946 penny right now, the advice is simple: take a close look at it, examine it under magnification, check for unusual weight, magnetic properties, or dramatic striking anomalies, because you never know, that ordinary-looking coin could hide extraordinary secrets, and the dream of turning a cent into millions is what keeps this passion alive. So as we conclude this incredible story of the 1946 wheat penny worth $5 million, we can only marvel at how something so small can hold such immense history, beauty, and value. And that's why collecting coins is not just a hobby, but an adventure where the past meets the present, where mistakes become treasures, and where the humble wheat penny becomes a symbol of discovery and fortune. So keep searching your change, keep exploring old collections, because the next great treasure could be waiting in your hands. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories about rare coins, and share this journey with others who love the thrill of discovering history hidden in plain sight. Next, 1953 D-Wheat Penny. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures where a simple penny that might look ordinary to most people could actually turn out to be worth a fortune. And today, we are going to talk about one of the most intriguing examples in the world of American numismatics, the 1953 D-Wheat penny that costs $1 million because of its errors, mistakes, and the rare circumstances that surround its creation, survival, and eventual discovery by collectors who know that what looks like a small copper coin in your pocket change can hold the power to completely change someone's life. So sit back and let's unravel the mystery behind this incredible 1-cent coin minted in Denver that has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and history lovers all over the world. Because the story of the 1953 D-Wheat penny is not just about the metal it was struck on, or the date and mint mark stamped on its surface, but about the imperfections, the accidental variations, and the unique anomalies that turn a coin from a simple tool of commerce into a multi-million-dollar collectible. And while most 1953 D-Wheat pennies are common with billions minted for circulation during the post-World War II era when copper cents were widely used, certain rare errors and die varieties have been discovered that push their value far beyond what anyone would normally expect for a 1-cent piece. So let's dig deeper into what makes these specific error coins so special, why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical sums, and what kind of mistakes and minting mishaps can transform a penny into a treasure worth $1 million. Because the Denver Mint in 1953 was operating under intense demand to strike coins for the booming American economy, and with high-volume production came the increased likelihood of mistakes slipping through quality control. Whether it was doubled dies where the design elements such as the date, lettering, or wheat stalks appeared doubled due to a misalignment in the hubbing process, repunched mint marks where the D was punched more than once in slightly different positions creating noticeable and collectible varieties, or off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet was not seated properly in the coining press. Each of these potential errors could contribute to making a coin unique and desirable. But what makes the 1953 D-Wheat penny particularly remarkable is the combination of these possibilities, and the fact that certain known examples exhibit multiple anomalies at once, such as a double die obverse with a repunched mint mark and possibly even a clipped planchet or lamination error where the metal separates or peels due to impurities in the alloy. And when you start layering these mistakes together, the rarity increases exponentially, which directly impacts the value collectors are willing to pay. So while a regular 1953 D-Wheat penny in circulated condition might only be worth a few cents or perhaps a couple of dollars if in mint state, the error coins with dramatic and eye-catching flaws are where the real money lies. And if an example combines a strong double die showing separation in the digits of the date along with a bold repunched D that is clearly visible to the naked eye, plus an additional planchet flaw that makes it even more unique, then you're looking at a coin that transcends its humble face value and enters the realm of 6-figure or even 7-figure valuations depending on collector demand and auction excitement. And that's exactly how a 1953 D-Wheat penny can command $1 million, because in the rare coin market, value is not just about metal content, but about rarity, demand, condition, and most importantly, the story the coin tells. And every mint error tells a story of how even in a system designed for precision and uniformity, human and mechanical imperfections can create something completely unintentional yet incredibly valuable, which fascinates collectors because it's like holding a piece of history that defied the odds and slipped through the cracks of mass production. And think about it, in 1953 pennies were everywhere, billions of them circulated through every pocket, store, and cash register in the United States. But out of all those ordinary coins, a select few carry unique mistakes that make them stand apart as treasures. And finding one is like discovering a needle in a haystack. Yet it happens because collectors and treasure hunters know to look carefully at every coin, examining dates under magnification, checking mint marks for repunching, and scrutinizing the edges and surfaces for signs of errors that could transform a penny into a life-changing find. And when a 1953 error penny surfaces at auction with certification from a trusted grading service confirming its authenticity and the presence of major errors, the bidding wars can skyrocket, with passionate collectors and investors driving the price into the millions. And it's not just about owning a coin, but about owning a piece of numismatic history that very few people in the world can claim to have. And this allure keeps fueling the market, making coins like the 1953 wheat penny with rare and dramatic errors some of the most sought-after treasures. So the possibilities of what errors exist on these pennies are vast, including die cracks that look like raised lines across the coin from stress fractures in the die, cut errors, where a piece of the die breaks off leaving a blank raised area on the coin, broad strikes where the coin is struck outside the collar and comes out larger and misshapen, and even transitional errors if a wrong planchet type was used, such as being accidentally struck on a leftover steel planchet from 1943 or even on a silver dime planchet, any of which would make the coin phenomenally rare and worth far more than ordinary examples. And while not every collector will ever see such a coin in person, the stories of those that surface in auctions inspire people to check their change and dig through old jars and inherited collections in hopes of uncovering their own million-dollar penny. So the 1953 wheat penny becomes not only a coin, but a symbol of possibility, a reminder that even the smallest things can hold enormous value. And it also teaches us about the history of minting, about how technology has improved but mistakes still happen, and how each error coin is a frozen moment in time when the normal process slipped just enough to create something extraordinary, and collectors cherish the uniqueness because no two error coins are ever exactly alike, which means the $1 million 1953 wheat penny is truly one of a kind, and its worth comes not only from its metal and design, but from its individuality, rarity, and the stories collectors tell when passing it on. So the next time you come across a wheat penny, especially one from the 1950s, take a moment to look closely because who knows, you might be holding one of those rare treasures. And as the world of coin collecting continues to grow with more people fascinated by the idea of hidden treasures in everyday money, the fame of coins like the 1953 million-dollar penny will only continue to rise, inspiring new generations of collectors to keep searching, keep learning, and keep dreaming of finding that extraordinary piece that could change their lives forever. Because at the end of the day, the value of these rare error coins lies not only in the dollar amount they fetch at auction, but in the passion and excitement they create in the numismatic community, fueling the endless hunt for the next big discovery. Next, 1952 wheat penny. We dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures where today we are going to unravel the mystery behind a coin that might look simple at first glance yet carries with it an astonishing story of errors, history, rarity, and incredible value. And that is none other than the 1952 wheat penny, a coin that has been recorded and discussed in the numismatic community for fetching values that soar to around $650,000 or $0.65 million in the right conditions. And while many people may look at a wheat penny and think it is just another old copper coin from mid-century America, the truth is that particular errors, minting mistakes, unique anomalies, and the sheer survival of certain examples in pristine condition elevate this coin into the realm of big money collectibles. And that is why we are here to walk through every angle, every possibility, and every error that could have contributed to this extraordinary valuation, because it is not just about rarity in numbers, it is about rarity in circumstances, it is about the story a coin carries, the conditions under which it was struck, the quality control that failed to catch certain imperfections, and the eyes of collectors who have over time placed immense importance on those tiny details that others might overlook. So let's begin with a closer look at the historical context of the 1952 wheat penny. minted in Denver during a time when the United States Mint was still producing the Lincoln wheat cent design. Before switching over to the Memorial Reverse in 1959, and this era of wheat pennies has always fascinated collectors because of the numerous varieties, small production quirks, and errors that often slip through the cracks. And when we talk about the Denver Mint specifically, it was notorious for producing a wide range of over-mint mark errors, doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, cuds, lamination errors, and planchet flaws, all of which could contribute to creating a version of the 1952 D wheat penny so unique that it commands hundreds of thousands of dollars. So imagine a penny that was struck with a doubled die obverse where Lincoln's profile appears slightly doubled, especially around the date and motto. Or picture a coin where the mint mark, D, was repunched, giving it a distinct layered look that numismatists prize highly. Or perhaps an off-center strike where part of the design is missing but enough remains visible to confirm its identity. Or, even more dramatic, a coin struck on the wrong planchet, such as a foreign coin blank or a leftover steel set blank from 1943, and these kinds of anomalies are what push the value of a seemingly ordinary 1-cent coin into the six-figure territory because they embody rarity and error in the perfect combination. And beyond the errors, we must also consider condition, since coin grading plays a massive role in determining worth. With coins graded MS67 or MS68 by professional grading services, bringing astronomical premiums compared to circulated examples, and the 1952 D wheat penny in such immaculate states is a gem because the Denver Mint had issues with strike quality, meaning sharp well-struck examples are themselves quite rare. So combine rarity of condition with rarity of errors, and you have a formula for a coin that could easily fetch $650,000 at auction. And collectors know that the charm of these pennies lies not only in their physical flaws, but in their connection to history, each error telling a story of the minting process, of human oversight, of machinery malfunction, of a system designed for perfection that sometimes produces imperfections that in hindsight become treasures. And think about how many 1952 D wheat pennies were struck, hundreds of millions, yet only a handful carry the anomalies that make them extraordinary. And of those only a tiny fraction have survived in pristine condition, stored away in rolls, or tucked into collections without ever seeing circulation, waiting decades to reveal their true value. And when such coins appear in auctions, the excitement is palpable, with bidders driving the price higher and higher because owning one is like holding a piece of numismatic history, an error frozen in time that no one can ever replicate. And what makes this even more compelling is the speculative nature of collecting. The idea that perhaps sitting in an old jar of pennies in someone's attic or hiding in pocket change is another 1952 D-era penny just waiting to be discovered, and that possibility fuels the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters alike, making the story of this coin not just about the single specimen valued at $650,000, but about the broader pursuit of finding hidden fortune in the most unexpected places. And when you dive into the specific errors associated with the 1952 D wheat penny, you find a fascinating list including repunched mint marks where the D appears doubled, misplaced mint marks struck outside their intended position, die cracks running across Lincoln's bust or through the reverse wheat stalks, lamination errors where the surface of the coin peels or flakes due to impurities in the metal, clipped planchets where the coin blank was cut improperly leaving a crescent-shaped gap, broad strikes where the coin expanded outside its collar resulting in a wider than normal cent, and even transitional errors where the wrong metal composition was used, all of which collectors chase with passion because each type of error tells a different story, a different accident in the minting process that transformed an ordinary penny into a rarity worth its weight many times over in gold. And it is also important to note that while many circulated 1952 D wheat pennies are only worth a few cents, it is these dramatic error varieties in high grade that are worth life-changing sums. which is why collectors meticulously examine every detail with magnification, looking at the date, the lettering, the mint mark, the edges, the surface, and the coloration to find anomalies that could point to a rare variety. And this is what makes coin collecting so addictive, because it combines history, detective work, and the thrill of the hunt with the potential of uncovering something worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so when we say that the 1952 DeWitt penny has been valued at $0.65 million, we are not just speaking of an ordinary coin, but of a special survivor, a coin whose errors and condition combine to create a perfect storm of desirability, a coin that collectors will battle over at auctions, and a coin that inspires everyday people to check their change with renewed curiosity. And as we continue exploring the story of this penny, it becomes clear that its value is not arbitrary, but deeply tied to the way the numismatic market operates, where rarity, demand, and condition intersect, and where stories of extraordinary discoveries fuel bidding wars. And this is why understanding minting errors is so crucial, because they are the foundation upon which these values are built, and every tiny variation matters, from a doubled eyelid on Lincoln's portrait to a subtle shift in the placement of the mint mark, to a slight off-center strike that transforms the entire look of the coin. And in the world of coin errors, no detail is too small, because every detail could mean the difference between a coin worth a penny and a coin worth a fortune. And so when we look at the 1952 DeWitt penny that sold or is valued around $650,000, we are looking at the pinnacle of what numismatic error collecting represents. And the lesson here for collectors is that patience, knowledge, and attention to detail can unlock treasures hiding in plain sight, and that even the smallest coin, the humble wheat penny, can tell a story of history, imperfection, rarity, and ultimately immense value. Next, 1958 DeWitt penny. Today we are going to uncover one of the most astonishing and captivating stories in U.S. coin history, the tale of the 1958 DeWitt penny that has been valued at an incredible $6 million because of its unbelievable errors, striking mistakes, and the unique possibilities that surround this tiny piece of copper. And as we go through this journey together, you will discover how something so ordinary at first glance can hold within it secrets that make it one of the most valuable treasures in numismatics. So let us begin by exploring the origins of the 1958 DeWitt penny, which was struck at the Denver Mint during the final years of the iconic Lincoln Wheat Cent series, before the transition to the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. And while millions upon millions of these coins were minted and circulated widely across the country, only a handful of extraordinary error coins managed to survive the minting process and escape into circulation. And among these few, a specific specimen gained legendary status due to the combination of striking errors, planchet mistakes, and anomalies in die preparation that make it unlike any other coin from that year. And when you hear about a $6 million price tag being associated with a penny, it may sound outrageous or too good to be true. But the truth is that collectors and investors in the rare coin market are willing to pay staggering amounts for coins that combine extreme rarity with fascinating stories. And the 1958 DeWitt penny that we are focusing on today exemplifies exactly that. For example, one of the most discussed errors associated with this coin involves double die obverse features, where the date and lettering show doubling that is crisp, visible, and unmistakable. And collectors absolutely prize double die varieties because they result from misalignments in hubbing during the die making process, which creates multiple impressions on the working die and thus on the struck coin. And this variety of doubling on the 1958 DeWitt penny creates a dramatic look where the numbers of the date 1958 appear almost shadowed, and the word Liberty has a spread effect, giving the coin an instantly recognizable characteristic. And when such doubling is strong and dramatic as seen in this particular coin, it can skyrocket its value, since only very few examples ever leave the mint before quality control detects the problem. But in the case of this penny, not only did it escape the mint, but it managed to survive in outstanding condition, another factor that makes it so desirable. And as we continue, let us consider other possibilities that have been linked to the value of this $6 million penny, including planchet errors where the blank copper disc may have contained impurities or laminations, and such flaws often lead to peeling, cracks, or discolorations that collectors interpret as unique mint-made characteristics rather than post-mint damage. And in some rare instances, planchets may have been struck on leftover metal stock intended for other denominations, which creates off-metal errors. So imagine the incredible intrigue if a 1958 DeWitt penny was struck on a bronze planchet with slight differences in composition or thickness compared to the usual copper alloy, instantly creating a one-of-a-kind coin. And another remarkable error possibility is misaligned dies or rotated dies, which can cause the obverse and reverse to be off-center from one another or tilted at odd angles, making the coin appear unusual when flipped, and such errors add tremendous value especially when combined with a double die obverse. So picture a coin that simultaneously exhibits doubling, rotation, and perhaps an imperfect planchet, and you begin to understand why this small piece of metal can achieve multi-million-dollar status. But the fascination does not end there, because grading plays a crucial role in value as well. And in the case of this $6 million penny, it is believed to be in extraordinary mint state condition, meaning that even though it was struck with errors, it shows virtually no wear, sharp luster, and strong details, which further magnifies its rarity. And collectors know that error coins in high grades are exponentially more valuable than those showing circulation wear. Now let us also dive into the historical context of 1958, which was a transitional year for the Lincoln Cent series, as it marked the very last production year of the wheat reverse design. So, coins from this year already hold a place in history as the final chapter of a beloved design that had been in use since 1909. And when you combine that historical importance with a rare Denver Mint era coin, you get a perfect storm for desirability and skyrocketing prices. And speaking of Denver, the D-Mint mark itself adds a layer of intrigue, since Denver was known for high-volume production and fewer dramatic errors compared to the Philadelphia Mint. So when a significant error like a strong double die emerges from Denver, it is even more remarkable and sought after. Now think about the collector's mindset when they bid on such a coin at auction. They are not only chasing a piece of copper, but also chasing history, mystery, and exclusivity, knowing that perhaps only one or two people in the entire world will ever own such a specimen. And this exclusivity fuels the bidding wars that push prices into the millions. And when we break down the psychology of the marketplace, rarity plus demand equals astronomical value. And the 1958 DeWitt penny checks both boxes emphatically. And beyond technical errors, there is also the human fascination with stories of discovery, because many legendary coins are found by ordinary people in pocket change or old jars of coins tucked away in basements or attics. And such stories inspire hope among collectors and non-collectors alike that maybe they too could stumble upon a life-changing treasure hidden in plain sight. So the legend of the $6 million penny grows not only from its physical characteristics, but also from the stories and myths surrounding it. For instance, some collectors speculate that this penny may have been a test strike, a mint employee experiment, or a result of intentional manipulation of dies that somehow slipped through the cracks. And though such stories are hard to verify, they add a layer of mystery that only increases desirability. And another point worth considering is the role of major grading services like PCGS and NGC, which authenticate and encapsulate coins to provide assurance of legitimacy. And once such an institution labels a coin as genuine and unique, the market responds with confidence. And that is exactly what elevates coins like the 1958 DeWitt penny into stratospheric price ranges. And we must also reflect on the broader implications for coin collectors, because studying coins like this teaches us to look carefully at our own pocket change, to pay attention to details, to value history, and to appreciate the craftsmanship of minting. And the idea that something as small and simple as a penny could be worth $6 million encourages people to enter the hobby, fueling the cycle of discovery and passion that keeps numismatics alive. And in truth, this single penny represents a microcosm of what makes coin collecting so magical: rarity, history, mystery, and the possibility of uncovering hidden value. And when we step back and think about the sheer improbability of this coin existing, it is almost poetic, a 1 in a billion occurrence where the stars aligned in a minting facility in Denver in 1958 to produce a coin that would decades later capture imaginations and command a price tag that most people would never associate with a single cent. And as we dive deeper into the specific characteristics that set this coin apart, consider that collectors often search for doubling in areas such as the motto, "I in God we trust," the word liberty, and the numerals of the date. And when those areas show sharp separation lines, it is considered dramatic doubling, the kind that collectors dream of. And that is what makes this penny a masterpiece of mint error collecting. And then there are die cracks and cuts, which are raised lines or blobs on the coin caused by breaks in the die. And these too can appear on some 1958 D wheat pennies, and while most are minor, if combined with other errors, they contribute to the uniqueness of a coin. And another error type that could add massive value is an off-center strike where the design is not properly centered on the planchet, leading to missing details or uneven rims. And if such an error appears alongside doubling, then the rarity is multiplied, making such a coin nearly impossible to duplicate. And the $6 million penny is believed to embody a perfect storm of such features, making it essentially a numismatic miracle. Next, 1944 wheat penny. Today we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and collectible treasures, the incredible tale of the 1944 wheat penny that has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and investors alike, a coin so extraordinary that certain examples have sold for as much as $2 million due to their rare errors, mistakes, and unusual circumstances of production, making it one of the most talked about and sought-after coins in American numismatic history. And as we unravel this story together, we'll explore what makes the 1944 wheat penny so unique, why errors from this year stand apart, how accidental minting blunders skyrocketed its value, and why collectors are willing to pay staggering sums to secure one of these elusive examples. So let's begin by setting the stage in 1944, right in the middle of World War II, when the United States Mint was under enormous pressure to meet production demands, conserve metals for the war effort, and continue supplying the economy with coinage. And during this period, the wheat penny, officially known as the Lincoln cent, was undergoing changes that directly influenced how mistakes slipped into circulation, because in 1943 pennies had been made of zinc-coated steel due to copper shortages. And while this solved wartime needs, the steel cents confused the public, rusted easily, and were often mistaken for dimes. So by 1944 the mint switched back to making pennies primarily from copper sourced from recycled shell casings and wartime scrap metal. But this shift created opportunities for errors, accidents, and oversights that would go on to make certain examples unbelievably valuable, and the most famous among them are the 1944 steel cents, where leftover steel planchets from 1943 accidentally made their way into the presses, producing a hybrid oddity that collectors crave. And because these steel planchet errors from 1944 are so scarce, they command 6- and even 7-figure prices at auction, with pristine examples sometimes approaching or exceeding $2 million. And that's only the beginning, because there are also double die errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and repunched mint marks from 1944 that have been discovered, each one adding another layer to the mystique of this iconic coin. So when we talk about a $2 million 1944 wheat penny, we're really looking at the pinnacle of rarity, where history, circumstance, and sheer accident combine to produce a once-in-a-lifetime collectible. And what's fascinating is that collectors today still stumble upon wheat pennies in old jars, dressers, and inherited coin collections without realizing that one of these pieces could potentially change their financial future forever. And if we analyze the errors more closely, the steel cent mistake of 1944 stands out as the king of them all. Because while the official composition was supposed to be bronze with a mix of copper, tin, and zinc, somehow a few leftover zinc coated steel blanks from the previous year were fed into the presses, struck with the 1944 dies, and released into circulation. And imagine the odds of this happening during a period of strict wartime control and enormous coin production, which makes these errors even rarer. And in fact, only a handful of genuine 1944 steel wheat pennies exist today, with fewer than 3 dozen confirmed across all mints, and even fewer in high grades, which is exactly why their value climbs into the millions. And beyond the steel cent errors, there are other variations, like the 1944D and 1944S coins struck on shell-case bronze that sometimes show repunched mint marks, where the mint worker punched the letter D or S more than once, leaving overlapping impressions that collectors prize. And while these aren't worth millions, like the steel cents, they can still command impressive premiums. And then, there are the off-metal strikes, where instead of being struck on a normal bronze planchet, a few pennies were accidentally struck on foreign coin blanks intended for use in Allied nations during the war, such as the planchets used for Belgian or Mexican coins. And these incredibly rare off-metal errors add to the intrigue, each one fetching extraordinary prices at auction. And let's not forget double die varieties, where the hubbing process left design elements like the date or lettering doubled, producing dramatic visual effects that are obvious even to the naked eye. And though not as rare as the steel cents, these too can push a coin's value into the tens of thousands or more depending on condition. And if we zoom out and think about what makes the 1944 wheat penny such a treasure, it's really a story about how human error, mechanical mishaps, and the historical context of a nation at war combined to create unintentional masterpieces of rarity. And collectors today value not only the physical coin, but the history embedded in it, because owning a 1944 steel cent or another dramatic error is like holding a piece of living history, a tangible artifact that connects the economic realities of wartime America to the thrill of modern-day collecting. And that connection explains why auctions for these coins draw international attention and sky-high bidding wars, with wealthy collectors, museums, and passionate enthusiasts all competing for ownership. And when one of these coins surfaces, it doesn't just sell, it makes headlines, sparking renewed interest in coin hunting. And the dream that anyone could uncover one in their own change or inherited collection. And indeed, there have been stories of unsuspecting people finding rare wheat pennies in coin rolls or old boxes, only to discover that they possess a fortune in their hands, which is part of what fuels the legend of the 1944 wheat penny, because unlike some rarities that are locked away in museums, there's always the possibility, however slim, that another example is still out there waiting to be found. And this potential discovery keeps hobbyists searching through wheat pennies tirelessly, examining dates, mint marks, and physical details with magnifying glasses and coin books, hoping to strike gold in the form of a $2 million penny. And while the majority of 1944 pennies are common, with billions produced across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, the few rare errors elevate the entire year into a realm of legendary status, because collectors know that lightning sometimes strikes in the unlikeliest places, and a simple pocket change penny could hold unimaginable value. And when we look at auction records, the highest values are consistently reserved for the 1944 steel cent examples, particularly those in mint state grades, because condition magnifies rarity exponentially, and a steel cent in uncirculated condition is not just rare, it's almost unheard of, which is why buyers line up to pay astronomical sums. And the narrative of how these coins survived in such condition is just as intriguing, since many of them were pulled out early by sharp-eyed collectors or simply never circulated widely. surviving the decades as relics of one of the strangest episodes in minting history. And all of these elements together, wartime shortages, production mistakes, minting varieties, and survival stories, combined to make the 1944 wheat penny one of the most captivating coins ever struck by the United States. And to collectors, it embodies the idea that even ordinary objects can become extraordinary under the right circumstances, and that possibility, that dream of turning a single cent into a multi-million-dollar prize, keeps the fascination alive across generations, inspiring new collectors to pick up magnifiers, dive into coin rolls, and join the hunt. So whether you're an experienced numismatist or just someone curious about the world of rare coins, the story of the 1944 wheat penny stands as proof that history, rarity, and chance can come together in ways that defy logic and create treasures beyond imagination. And if you ever come across an old wheat penny from 1944, remember to look closely, because hidden in its small coppery surface might be the mistakes, errors, or oddities that transform it from pocket change into a $2 million masterpiece. And that possibility is what makes coin collecting such an endlessly rewarding adventure. One where history lives in your hand, and every discovery could be the beginning of a life-changing story. And the legend of the 1944 wheat penny will continue to inspire, amaze, and excite collectors for generations to come as one of the most valuable, mysterious, and enchanting coins ever minted in the United States. Last 1945 wheat penny. Tiny pieces of copper can end up being worth fortunes beyond imagination. And today we are going to uncover the incredible story of the 1945 wheat penny that has shocked collectors and investors alike by being valued at a staggering $3 million, a price tag that seems unbelievable until you realize the complex history, errors, and minting mistakes that turned what was supposed to be an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And as we explore this incredible journey, I want you to think about the sheer possibility that one of these rare coins might still be hiding in your own change jar, tucked away in an old coin album, or sitting forgotten in a relative's drawer, because that chance is what excites collectors and makes stories like this one so captivating. Now let us rewind to 1945, a pivotal year in American and world history, with the Second World War just coming to an end. The U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure. Production of coins had surged during the war. Years to meet the demands of a booming economy and the military effort, materials were stretched thin, and mistakes in minting became more likely due to rushed production schedules and overworked equipment. It was within this chaotic environment that the 1945 wheat penny was struck, and while hundreds of millions of pennies were made that year across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, only a tiny handful contained the bizarre and fascinating errors that would eventually make them multi-million-dollar treasures. One of the most famous issues that gives the 1945 penny its legendary value is the off-metal strike error, meaning that instead of being struck on the normal bronze planchets, a few pennies were mistakenly struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943 or even experimental transitional metal compositions that were tested as alternatives during wartime shortages. These off-metal strikes are some of the rarest finds in the entire hobby, and the fact that a 1945 penny exists in such a form is nothing short of miraculous. But the story doesn't end there, because additional errors like double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, die cracks, and lamination errors also come into play, each one adding layers of uniqueness to the coin and driving collectors wild at auction. For instance, a double die obverse on a 1945 penny can create the appearance of doubled letters in the words Liberty or In God We Trust, as well as noticeable doubling on the date itself, and such striking anomalies are rare enough individually, but when paired with an off-metal composition, the rarity multiplies exponentially, making such coins essentially one of a kind. Then, there are the repunched mint marks, especially from the Denver and San Francisco mints where hand-punch marks often led to overlapping impressions. So you might find a 1945 D penny with the D mint mark clearly punched twice or slightly rotated, an error that collectors love. Add to this the possibility of die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait or through the wheat stalks on the reverse, giving the coin a unique fingerprint-like flaw that no other coin shares exactly. And suddenly you start to understand how a penny originally worth just 1 cent can lead to millions when the right combination of mistakes are present. Now another fascinating aspect of the 1945 wheat penny is the speculation surrounding transitional errors, because the mint was already preparing in those years for changes in metal composition and coinage designs. Some theorists believe that test strikes using different alloys, such as experimental copper-zinc mixes or even leftover planchets from nickel or dime production, may have been accidentally released into circulation, and when one of these experimental strikes turns up, it is considered priceless, since so few were ever intended to exist. And indeed one such 1945 penny struck on a foreign coin planchet has been authenticated by experts. Weighing slightly less than normal and having a different color tone, these anomalies add fuel to the legend and keep collectors searching tirelessly. So when you hear about a 1945 penny selling for $3 million, it is not just about the coin itself but about the story, the combination of history, error, survival, and desirability that creates a perfect storm of value. Collectors at auction are not just buying a piece of copper, they are buying a piece of mystery, a piece of World War II history, a tangible connection to a time when America was reshaping itself and the world, and they are buying bragging rights to own something so rare that only 1 or 2 examples might exist, driving competition and prices higher and higher. But imagine the possibilities. What if you stumbled across one of these in your pocket change? Most people wouldn't even give it a second glance. Yet a trained eye would immediately notice the unusual weight, the off-color, the doubling on the letters, or the strange mint mark, and from there the journey to authentication and auction could change your life. And this is what makes coin collecting so exciting. It's like a treasure hunt where knowledge and luck combine. Now let's go deeper into what makes the errors themselves so captivating. Consider die clashes, which occur when dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of the reverse design on the obverse or vice versa. If such an error appears on a 1945 penny, it becomes a highly collectible oddity. Or take broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the collar in place, causing it to spread out unnaturally wide, giving it a unique appearance that stands out instantly. Then, there are off-center strikes where the design is shifted significantly, sometimes cutting off parts of Lincoln's portrait or the wheat stalks, and the more dramatic the off-center, the more valuable the coin becomes, particularly when the date remains fully visible, because that ensures authenticity and preserves its identity as a 1945 rarity. Furthermore, lamination errors, where the metal surface of the coin peels or flakes due to impurities, add yet another dimension of uniqueness. All of these combined with the historical backdrop of 1945 make these pennies symbols not just of money but of survival, change, and opportunity. And when you consider how few have survived in pristine or unique condition, it becomes clear why collectors are willing to push prices into the millions. Auctions often see fierce bidding wars where wealthy enthusiasts, investors, and museums all compete to secure a piece of numismatic history, and the publicity around such sales only drives the legend further, encouraging even more people to check their coins, fueling the endless hunt. And perhaps the most inspiring part of this story is that anyone, absolutely anyone, could be the next person to discover such a coin. It doesn't take special access or privilege, just curiosity, patience, and a willingness to look closely at the coins you already have. Every 1945 penny has a story, but some tell it more loudly through their mistakes, and when those mistakes align in just the right way, they transcend their 1 cent face value and become multi-million-dollar treasures. And that is why the 1945 wheat penny valued at $3 million continues to fascinate and inspire, proving that even the smallest and most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary secrets and unimaginable worth. if only we take the time to look closely enough.